question was, could we show that in a visual presentation without relying on technical scientific jargon? Could we show with a visual presentation that a confirmatory bias model or advocacy model was highly dangerous? We wanted it as understandable for the juror with a 6th grade education as the juror with a PhD. The solution came fast once we defined the problem as a confirmatory bias model. We are going to demonstrate to you how you can approach the child sexual abuse accommodation syndrome and demonstrate to a jury that it is a confirmatory bias model. We're going to use testimony from a trial where the expert witness was Dr. Anthony Urquiza. We have been up against Dr. Urquiza many times in Northern California. He was later the expert witness for the prosecution in the Michael Jackson case. We have paraphrased some of the answers to get rid of the ums and ahs and deleted some of the issues that are not needed for this demonstration. The transcript of Dr. Urquiza can be found on our website, and we will give you that information at the end of this presentation.
The first step in attacking the junk science known as child sexual abuse accommodation syndrome is to anticipate how the prosecution expert will counterattack. The counterattack is always the same. They rely upon another area of junk science. The bogus claims that only 2 to 6% of the allegations of sexual molestation are false. There are 2 methods to counter the junk science nature of this bogus percentage of false allegations claim. First, we have developed a system for disproving that false assertion and to expose the junk science on which it is based. However, due to the length of this seminar, we'll save that method perhaps for another seminar. The second method is simple. We've developed a motion in limine to exclude opinion testimony on what percentage of allegations of sexual molestation are false. This motion in limine is based on the fact that the opinion is improper and irrelevant opinion testimony. We have won this motion every time we filed it up to this date. At the close of this presentation, we will show you where you can get our most up-to-date motions to exclude this kind of evidence.
Okay, we're ready to start. Let's start the demonstration by looking at the prosecution's direct testimony from a child sexual abuse accommodation syndrome expert witness. Dr. Randy Rand will play the role of Dr. Urquiza.
The people call Dr. Anthony Urquiza.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated, state your name, and spell your last name for the record.
Anthony Joseph Urquiza. Urquiza.
Good morning, Dr. Urquiza.
Good morning.
Can you tell the jury what you do for a living?
Sure. Actually, I have a couple of titles. I'm a psychologist licensed in the state of California. I'm a member of the social clinical faculty in the Department of Pediatrics at UC Davis Medical Center in Sacramento, California. And last title, I'm Director of Mental Health Services for a program called the CARE Center, which is a medical and mental health service program specifically for children who are sexually abused, physically abused, and neglected in their families.
Is that care center part of UC Davis?
It is a part of the Department of Pediatrics.
Would you describe what you do in your present occupation? What kinds of things you do?
A few things. As a psychologist, I have historically conducted therapy, done therapy. Again, my area of expertise is child abuse, so I've done therapy with children who have been abused. I stopped doing that probably about 3 years ago. Prior to that, I had seen several thousand children in therapy. I continue to do psychological evaluations of families and children. I conduct research as I'm faculty. That's part of the mission of the university, is to do research in some area. My area being child abuse is the area I do research, and have been doing research on child abuse for the past 20 years. And last, the last thing I do is teaching. I teach in conferences. I don't teach a classroom setting. I teach, we have an internship program where we teach people to be social workers and psychologists. I teach at seminars, workshops, training that we do. And then the very last one is some administration, where as director I have responsibility to manage some budget, personnel, those types of things.
Okay. Would you describe your educational background, including any internships you've done?
Sure. I have 3 degrees, all of them from the University of Washington in Seattle. I have an undergraduate degree in child development. I have a master's degree in clinical psychology and doctorate degree in psychology, or PhD in psychology.
And would you tell the jury what internships you've been a part of or that you've completed?
As a part of the education in the United States, to be a psychologist and to be licensed, you have to have an internship. I had an internship that was approved by the American Psychological Association at Primary Children's Medical Center, which is in Salt Lake City, Utah, probably 1987, 1988, about that time.
Okay, can you describe for the jury specifically what teaching experience you've held?
Sure. Well, the beginning teaching experience I had was as a preschool teacher back in the 70s. I was a preschool teacher for a couple of years. As a graduate student at the University of Washington, I taught several classes related to child development and child abuse and problems, emotional and psychological problems that children and families have. I held for about a year and a half a teaching position or faculty position at the San Diego State University in the Department of Family Studies. And then I assumed my current position as faculty in pediatrics in January of 1990, so about 13, 14 years.
Okay, would you describe your training and experience as it relates to any expertise in the field of child sexual abuse and/or child sexual assault accommodation syndrome?
I entered graduate school with the expectation that my career decisions, or my career decision was going to be as faculty, someone who taught, did research, and had a clinical expertise in child abuse. So I started graduate school in 1983. And so all of my training really has been specifically geared to that. So through graduate school, I was very focused on seeing clients who had a history of abuse and research and teaching. Since graduate school, since I received my degree, I regularly participate in conferences and trainings. And at my level now, I often give trainings at conferences. So I often present at workshops and conferences nationally, and I'm usually in a position to teach courses. I do that on a regular basis. The typical pattern for me is to attend a conference. Usually it's one I'm presenting at, and while I'm there I go to workshops and training for my own continuing education.
Can you describe any clinical or research experience that you have?
Clinical experience, I started seeing clients in 1983 when undergraduate school, at that time under somebody else's supervision. Now, as a licensed psychologist, I don't need that supervision. And so from about 1988, well, I received my license in 1990. So 1990 until currently, I've been seeing children in either therapy or evaluations on a regular basis. I now supervise both faculty, I supervise both psychologists and social workers. I supervise psychology interns, and also supervise 6 supervisors. We have a staff of about 50 people, and I have 6 clinical supervisors. So I'm their direct supervisor. So a lot of my clinical responsibilities currently are involving supervision rather than providing direct services.